But first, Mack Brown versus the NCAA. Fuad says it right off the bat. Free Tez Walker. Unfortunately, Tez Walker, the wide receiver for North Carolina, will not be freed. He will not be playing this year because the NCAA denied his appeal on Thursday. Just a heartbreaking moment for Tez Walker. And let me explain the case here, because it's all kinds of messy, but it's a bad look for the NCAA, as almost everything is. I got yelled at on Twitter because I said it's a bad look for the coaches that complained and got this rule change as well, but we'll explain that too. First, let's explain Tez Walker's case. So Tez Walker is a wide receiver from Charlotte. He initially was going to play at North Carolina Central. He was enrolled at North Carolina Central. 2020, they canceled their season because of the pandemic. So he transfers to Kent State. He plays at Kent State for 2 seasons, is very good. But remember, all this talk we've had about Colorado in the last week, what have we said? Oh, Sean Lewis had a great offensive game plan. That's the offensive coordinator at Colorado. Well, he was the head coach at Kent State. When he left on December 5th, most of the Kent State stars went into the portal. Now, Tez Walker didn't immediately go in. He went in 4 days later. But basically, his coach left. A lot of his teammates were leaving. And so he decided, I'm leaving too. And his thinking was, okay, they say they're going to tighten up on the second undergraduate transfer, but how could they possibly do that to me? Because the school I went to first canceled its season, did not play football. Totally outside everybody's control. And that seemed like a pretty logical case to make for a waiver, except it was denied the first time. And then Thursday, it was denied on appeal. And that set Mack Brown off. And here's what Mack Brown said. We're absolutely crushed to learn that Tez Walker's eligibility has been denied for this season and he won't be able to play. I don't know that I've ever been more disappointed in a person, a group of people, or an institution than I am with the NCAA right now. It is clear that the NCAA is about process and it couldn't care less about the young people it's supposed to be supporting. Plain and simple, the NCAA has failed Tez and his family, and I've lost all faith in its ability to lead and govern our sport. They've messed so many things up as it relates to college football, and now their failures have negatively impacted the life of one of our own. Just imagine what it is like for Tez to be so excited to come home and have a chance to fulfill his childhood dream of playing for North Carolina in front of all of his family and friends, only to have it taken away despite doing nothing wrong. I can't begin to understand how this has happened. The decision makers at the NCAA and on the committee should be ashamed of themselves for doing this to a young man. As has been clearly documented, Tez should be eligible for a number of reasons, not the least of which is the mental health issues he's faced during his time in college. With this decision, the NCAA has placed an unnecessary burden on him. He's had a rough go of it, and this will surely only make it worse. How dare they ever speak about mental health and student-athlete welfare again? We've got complete rosters overhauled through the transfer portal, players playing in their 8th year of college, players playing at their 4th school, and the list goes on. Yet Tez Walker, who has only played football at one school, isn't eligible. It makes no sense, and it never will. Moving forward, our Carolina family is strong, and we need to wrap our arms around Tez, lift him up, and make sure we continue to do all we can do to support him. He's continued to work on the field and off and remained an amazing member of our program throughout this ordeal. I know that will continue to happen because that's the kind of person he is. Despite this setback, Tez's future remains bright, and we'll continue to do everything we can to help him fulfill all of his dreams. Shame on you, NCAA. Shame on you. That is as strong as I can remember a coach ever coming out against the NCAA. And I'll add one more thing to the pile of reasons that this waiver could have been approved. Tez Walker was already enrolled at North Carolina when this rule got changed in January. Now, if that sounds familiar to you, yes, that's exactly what happened in the cases of Tyler Brown at Colorado and Darrell Jackson at Florida State. Those guys had enrolled in their new schools before the rule changed, and the NCAA applied it retroactively. Max Schnell. Thankfully, Mack Brown called out the NCAA. So much for the NCAA having the student athletes first. No, it is the member institutions which the NCAA serves over all else. But here's the thing. North Carolina is one of those member institutions. And this is what I said that got all the North Carolina people mad at me, even though I said the same thing when this happened to Darrell Jackson and the same thing when this happened to Tyler Brown. The coaches and the ADs complained incessantly about the transfer portal for a couple of years and said, you got to do something about it. You got to get this under control. And Mack Brown, you can find quotes of him saying that too. You just Google it. We found them pretty easily. So if they never say that, if they never complain, that rule doesn't get tightened. And Tez Walker's playing right now. So my problem is, why weren't any of the coaches on the side of truth and justice before it negatively impacted their teams? That's the thing I want to see. What I hope happens here, after Mack Brown has said this, where he said he does not believe the NCAA can govern the sport, then do something about that, North Carolina. It's not just Mack Brown. It's Bubba Cunningham, the AD. It's their chancellor. It's everybody there. And then also the people at Florida State, the people at Colorado, the people who have been negatively impacted by this. And it would be nice if the people at the other schools who weren't affected by this would speak out. Because I know there are some coaches out there who probably think Tez Walker got screwed. Say it. The only way any of this changes is if you guys actually do anything about it. Because the schools are the NCAA. They make the rules. If you don't like this rule, change it. If you don't like the fact that they retroactively apply rules, tell them to stop doing that. All the schools can get together and say, NCAA National Office, stop retroactively applying rules. If someone enrolled before the rules changed, they are grandfathered in, too bad. You can do that as the schools. So that's the part I don't like about this. That's the part that bugs me. But there's no defending the NCAA in this. I mean, these guys repeatedly pass up chances to look like human beings and not like assholes. I don't know why they keep doing this. This would have been a layup. No one would have complained if Tyler Brown, Daryl Jackson, and Tez Walker were all allowed to play this year. No one would have complained to them. But now they look like terrible people who don't care about the athletes. And Mack is right. Never, ever, ever in your rhetoric talk about caring about the athletes or their mental health, because you don't. We know you don't. Everybody knows you don't. It's really amazing to me, though. I've always said the NCAA needs to hire a vice president of common sense. That's the person who would stand up and say, hold on, folks. You know, if we deny these waivers, we're going to look like horrific, evil people. Maybe not do that. Maybe pass on that chance. Maybe say, you know what? It's not going to hurt anybody if they play, so just let them play. I don't know if they do that. But this is what you get. You complain about the transfer portal. They tighten the rules because you complain. And now this happens. So, yes, there is a happy medium there. There is a happy medium where they use some common sense. Like the common sense in this particular case would have been, if you were enrolled before we changed the rule, no problem. You beat us to the punch. No problem. Going forward, we will enforce the rule, but you were already enrolled, so the old rule applies to you. Go on about your business. That would have been the easiest way to do it. But they don't ever do anything easy there. They just don't take the layups when they out them. So it's a terrible situation for Tez Walker. You feel for him. We played Daryl Jackson, his interview after his appeal got denied. And he was putting a really, happy face and really just being very cool about it. But you could tell he was heartbroken. And there's an easier way to do this. But again, don't complain about how the transfer portal is ruining football. And I'm not just talking about Mack Brown. I'm talking about all the coaches. Because eventually that's going to come back and bite you in the butt. So, I don't know. This could have been handled a lot better by everybody, but specifically by the NCAA. Like, common sense would have been so easy to just say, these guys enrolled before we changed the rule. Let them play. But no, you had to look like terrible people because you always choose to look like terrible people. And I don't think they are terrible people. That's the thing. The people who work at the NCAA office, who serve on these appeals committees, the people who work at the schools who serve on NCAA committees, they're not terrible people. They're not trying to screw the athletes over and over. They're not going in there thinking, how am I going to screw an athlete today? But they are so bound by the process that they never, ever think of empathy or common sense. It never occurs to them. And that's why everyone hates the NCAA. Now, if Mack is right about, hey, I have no confidence in them to govern our sport, I wonder if his president feels the same way. If enough presidents feel that way, then maybe somebody else can govern college football. Because again, the schools are the NCAA, and the schools can leave the NCAA anytime they want and form another organization. They'll still all have to agree on rules, but it's not as complicated as they're making it. It's going to happen. They're going to break football out of the NCAA eventually, but maybe this speeds up the process. Maybe you get enough coaches mad, you get enough ADs mad, enough presidents mad, they finally break off and govern big-time football by itself and not try to govern it like they govern a bunch of other sports that bear no resemblance to big-time football. We'll see. It's going to happen eventually. The question is whether this sped it up. Thank you so much for watching. Just a reminder, subscribe to this channel right here so you never miss an episode of Andy Staples On 3. And oh, by the way, watch all the other great videos on the On3 Sports YouTube channel.